There are many things that get in the way of God being the top priority in my life, which is why I want to cut off my arm. Yeah, it's true. I want to cut off my arm. And it's not quite as crazy as you might think. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure that God wants me to cut off my arm. Allow me to explain how and why God might want this of me. There was an amazing story in the news in May of 2003 about a man named Aron Ralston. He was rock climbing in Utah, and as he was climbing over a 1,000-pound boulder, it shifted, and it landed on his right hand and forearm. 5 days later, after he had run out of water and there was no help in sight, Aron had only two choices. The first choice, he could cut off his arm with a pocket knife. His second choice, die. And that man, Aron, actually cut off his arm. What about you? What would you do? Would you rather lose your arm or die? Duh. But here's the tougher question. Could you really cut off your own arm with a pocket knife? I mean, imagine the pain, self-inflicted, with no anesthesia. I recall a conversation I had once with a young woman. She was 16 years old and a sophomore in high school. She attended a youth group, and whenever she was at youth group, she was very committed to her faith. However, she was living a double life. When she wasn't at youth group, she was hanging out with the wrong crowd and was making some illegal, immoral, and unhealthy choices. And because of these choices, she had recently experienced a huge loss of freedom. She was in trouble with the law, she had ruined the trust of her parents, and she was questioning if her friends were real. To me, what she needed to do was obvious. She needed to cut off her arm. She needed to stop hanging out with this group of so-called friends, tell her friends in youth group that she needed help, and ask her parish youth minister for wisdom and support. I encouraged her to do these things. I think of this young woman often and I wonder, has she done what she really needs to do? Will she ever? Or will the self-inflicted pain of letting go of this group of friends and the temporary loneliness that she might experience be too much to bear? Can she endure this pain? Or will she ignore what she knows she must do and die, continuing to wear her masks, distancing herself from her parents, and lose her intimacy with God? I believe that this is exactly what Jesus is talking about when he says, if your right eye causes you to sin, tear it out and throw it away. And if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one of your members than to have your whole body go into Gehenna. By the way, that's Matthew 5:29-30. You see, personally, when I needed to break from hanging out with the wrong crowd as a college student, I felt like I was cutting off my arm or tearing out my eye. It hurt because it involved leaving behind what had become a part of me. It was a very painful and difficult process, and I assure you it did not happen overnight. Looking back, though, I can tell you that it was totally worth it. Had I continued hanging out with those people who were not my true friends, but with whom I only shared destructive behaviors, I'm sure that I would have died spiritually, staying separated from my true self and from God. Perhaps I would not even be alive today. In light of who I have become with God's grace, I'm glad that I cut off my arm. So what does this mean for you and for me right now? Well, for the alcoholic, it means getting sober and working the AA program. For the person who does drugs, it means going to rehab and getting clean. For the unchaste person, it means making a commitment, be sexually pure, and changing some behaviors and relationships. No matter what the issue might be for any of us, smoking, gambling, compulsive spending, an eating disorder, pornography, lying, cheating, stealing, or some other issue, sometimes we just need to cut off our arm. It'll be painful, and in some cases it might mean losing some friends and finding new ones. The good news, though, is that we don't need to do it alone. There is a higher power that we can depend on who will be with us every step of the way, and he will even supply us with some local anesthetics so that the pain is not too much to bear. His name is Jesus, and with him, all things are possible, even cutting off your arm. Now, cutting off your arm or plucking out your eye may seem like an impossible task, but it's all about preserving your life. Like the mountaineer, if you don't do it, you'll die. And I don't know about you, but I want to live.